This exercise in analyzing the life and reality of Jesus, it's not really so much about that. It's more an exercise in understanding myself and trying to understand something other than the prescribed script and story that's been passed down through tradition. It's simply the exercise and practice of allowing myself to be heretical, permitting myself to be of another opinion. And that in itself is a priceless privilege and freedom to practice. And yes, I do understand that inherently it is easier and more comfortable to just fall in line with the accepted storyline, with the accepted consensus. It is safe to fall into a collective awareness and just drown in those waters than trying to swim above them and see the world through different eyes. And I am just taking full advantage of the privilege and the freedom to forge a new story. And I do so, and I often use the subject of Jesus to rewrite the story, to see what other story I can come up with, and does it still make sense, right? And I'm finding as I rewrite Jesus' story, the traditionally handed down story, and change it a little bit to be more suited to my own life, it's beginning to make more sense, and there's a lot more to glean from than to just believe a, shall I call it, quote unquote, fairy tale of made up supernatural events that we as humans can never live up to, measure up to, because they're too fantastical. So, and because my human awareness cannot deal with just fantastical stories that never realized in my own life, I have to dismiss them. And that is why I revisit the subject matter of Jesus and Jesus Christ and the Christian story again and again, to shine light on it from different angles and to see how can I make this story fit into my life? How does it apply? And as I said today, the glimpse of self-realization, the glimpse of perceiving consciously the totality of your own oversoul, aka God, the essence of absoluteness, is only the beginning of this journey of incorporating God consciousness into the human avatar, which is tremendously difficult because of the dense nature of this dimension. And so it's a lengthy journey of evolution. It's a lengthy journey of evolution. You don't all of a sudden become a Superman or Superwoman, superhero that can do the impossible. Not even Jesus, in his humanity, was able to do the impossible. You would think that as source God or as Father, he would have been able to take himself off the cross or never go to the cross in the first place, if it meant that he had superhuman strengths. It didn't mean that. Jesus was every bit as human as you and I, and he faced his difficulties as do you and I every day. He had his moment of enlightenment on the Mount of Transfiguration, where he just glowed in his light body essence. But then came the difficult time at the end of his life, where he was found guilty of incitement and rebellion, and he was condemned to death on the cross, none of which he could escape as a human. But he did not fear this temporal event in a temporal life, because he had achieved this Christ awareness, the consciousness of the absolute self. However, his body did not quite incorporate enough of that, not to react through his nervous system, to react violently and start sweating blood and sweat drops of blood, because of the enormity of fear and anxiety and panic that gripped him in those final moments in the garden. As a human being, that is what is going to happen. Our nervous system is designed to react in these ways. It's just how it is, and it's humanly impossible to override that. It's even impossible to override it permanently with a good hold of the higher consciousness being in us. In our tripart nature of body, mind, and soul, or body, mind, and spirit, it's not so easy to integrate it all into one. And the communication is not always streamlined, where the body gets the communication of the soul or the spirit, and that's how they don't always work together in alignment. It's no judgment of that. It happens. You wouldn't be human if that didn't happen to you. So don't feel pressured. This is indeed an evolutionary journey, and Jesus in his time happened to be a more advanced soul than the collective in his time, but he still was very much human, very much subject to this density, this earth density, and thus had to suffer the death on the cross. So these are my heretical thoughts, which just means having a different opinion from everyone else, not abiding by the consensus of the masses.